Selamat pagi, Van, apa kabar?
Alhamdulillah, baik-baik, terima kasih.
Ya, pertama kali kami mengucapkan terima kasih ya atas waktunya untuk datang ngobrol-ngobrol pagi ini. Ya,
Ya.
okay. Uh, could you tell us, why Australia? I mean, mengapa Australia? There's other, four other continents. Could you tell us the beginning? People say, humans make plans. Gods make the decision. And how true is it?
I came to Australia, well, more than 40 years ago. So obviously, I came here as a little boy.
Uh-huh.
As a little boy, I didn't have much to say where I go at the time. So obviously, it's the decision of my parents. I can tell you about the decision of my parents,
Right.
certainly, but it wasn't my decision. But I have, as we say, we on because of our faith. So we end up saying this: it's a destiny that Allah has given us, and this is where
Yes.
I am. So I
Mhm.
embrace it all the way. Yeah. But,
Right.
just to answer your question, this was my parents who decided to. Well, my parents to be exact, and I go to that. Not my parents, as in plural, two parents.
Yeah. Mom and dad.
Mom and dad. Even though, mom and dad are still there. So,
Uh-huh.
but this my story had a little twist in the beginning. So when I
Uh-huh.
said my parents, only one of them decided to come here, and then the other one had to join.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we came here more than 40 years ago. I was 13 at the time. Uh, how long have I got, Pak Anton? How do you tell me, you guide me, yeah? In terms of what I say too much or too little, that depends on the timing of your program.
Yes, yes. I mean, the initial, I mean, that was during the Vietnam War, after the
Yeah,
Vietnam War, after the
that's right.
Saigon fell. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. We came to Australia in 1978, January 1978. I came to Australia in January
Right.
1978. After 3 4 months of staying in a refugee camp in Malaysia, Pulau
Mhm.
Besar. It's what they call at the time, one of the earlier refugee camps in Malaysia. We left Vietnam in around about early October in 1977 on a boat, on a licking boat.
Mhm.
Well, it
Mhm.
wasn't licking, a small boat. And then we arrived in refugee camp Malaysia. During the trip, we escaped from Vietnam. As you know, Vietnam up until 1975 was split into up until 30th of April 1975 was split into two halves, North and South, very much like
Yes.
South and North Korea right now. North Vietnam's were at the time under communism, and South Vietnam's was a republic of Vietnam at the time. So after 30th of April 1975, the North took over, and Vietnam's become one country. A lot of people in the South at the time decided to leave because for political reasons. They escaped from Vietnam. So my father was one of them.
Mhm.
He organized a boat, a fishing boat, and tried to escape in Vietnam. During the trip, the escape from Vietnam, we lost my mom, my mother. Yeah, I'm the eldest of six children. I was about 13 at the time, and the last one, the sixth child, was 1 year old.
Right.
We had to transport people from river into onto the slightly bigger boat at sea in order to escape. And during the transfer, we had to do it in multiple trips. So during the transfer, we lost touch with each other for whatever reason. We found out later it was interrupted by police security,
Right.
communist. Yeah, so that's why. So my father was captain of the escaping boat. He decided to leave without my mom and my youngest sister because there were so many at stake. There were the lives of 31 other people on the bigger boat. We were
Right.
supposed to be about 70 people, but we only boarded about 31, and then the rest we couldn't. We waited at sea, pretend to be a fishing boat for more than 24 hours, and then we had to
Right.
leave. Yeah, so we left Vietnam, and then we, after 3 days, 3 nights, 3.5, 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly, but then we landed in Malaysia, in a remote island village in
Right.
Malaysia at night, and we were transferred to a refugee camp that was organized by UNHCR, United Nations Commission for High Commission for Refugee.
Right. So actually,
Yeah.
landed in Malaysia accidentally, or really, guarded?
Accidentally.
Right.
Accidentally, yes. We had some equipment, but then of course it wasn't enough. We first we saw land first. We saw land after 2 days of travel. After 2 days at sea, we saw land at night. We saw some light, and then we sort of anchored and waited in the morning, and then we let some good swimmer to swim in, and then we found out it was a Thai pirate village. So we they swam back, and we decided to take off very quickly. And then the next night, 18 hours later, we saw some light, and so we know it's land. And then
Right.
then at the time there was very windy, strong. The waves were high. The wind was strong, very strong, and the boat was shaking left and right, swaying left and right vigorously. And we thought we
Right.
were going to die. My
Right.
father was with 5 of his own children. Basically, when we were going to die, everybody on the boats were going to die, so they all looked after themselves. My
Right.
father said to me and my brother, who was 1 year younger than me. I was 13 and he was 12. And then there's another brother who was about 10, how old was he? About 6. We were little, basically, and then we got 2 little sister who were 2 and 4. So he said to us, he said, "You 2 boys look after the little boy, and I have 2 hands only, so I look after the 2 little girls." He could swim. He said he was a strong swimmer, but we were not. But
Yes.
basically, that's all he could do, look after 2.
Yes.
So of course, so we were panicking, and obviously I was 13. I had no fear, not because I was brave or anything, but because I was too young to fear.
Yes. I
I
mean,
say, so when my
yeah.
father said, "Yeah, you two look after the boy," I said, "Okay."
There was an order, right? You can't refuse. You just have to accept it.
Yeah, exactly. So we died. So we just know what we need to do. Basically, I had no fear at that time, so I don't recall that I have any fear at all. But uh, anyway, so yeah, so I put it down to being too young.
Right.
And then when one of the younger men on the boat at the time, who didn't have any family, the one of the one that who pretended to be fisherman with my father as part of his team to help run the show, do the fishing and pretend to be fisherman. He was an ex-soldier anyway.
Right.
So yeah, so he obviously he jumped first, so he was going to jump and swim into land. At the time we saw the light far. Hang on, we didn't actually see the light. Actually, sorry, this particular night we didn't see any light. We just know that
Right.
when you put your hand out, if you stretch your arm right, you can't see your finger. That's how dark it was.
Right.
We couldn't see anything. So he jumped, and then as he jumped, and then suddenly we heard him screaming, yelling, "Land, sand, sand!" Yeah. So we actually
Right.
the boat. This is after so many hours, so about 3 hours already. So the boats got pushed to the shore, and as it got pushed closer to the shore, because of the sand, it's got stuck, and then of course the wave is stronger, so it shook even more.
Yes.
So when he jumped, he sand, so everybody was felt so relieved, and then started to climb down, and then people started to help each other to get out of the boat, and with the 31 people with only like 2 torches, we make our way on shore, and then we couldn't see anything at the time, so dark, and then we saw some like a little shed, very small, say like 2 meters by 2 meters. So we gather
Right.
ourselves and stay until the morning. And then when the morning woke up, we actually were on the beach with the little, shed, four stick of wood, and then
Right.
the leaves of the tree cover on the top. We found out later that it was actually like a fisherman's shed. Basically, that's where they have a rest. That's where they put their boat in,
Right.
and they fish. Anyway, it didn't take long. Like a couple of hours later, we started to see some people
Right.
walking around, and they saw a boat. They curious. They come and look, and they discover us, and we discovered them. Basically, we have, of course, some of us could speak English. My father could speak English. We had some Chinese speaking Vietnamese on the boat, but for some reason we found out later that they was Malaysian people. Obviously, we can use
Right.
sign language, and we could guess. So we think because of the skin color and things like that, so we thought they was most likely in Thailand and in Malaysia.
Right.
Yeah, so we arrived to camp, the refugee camp. So they later, the Malaysian police will send a convoy to come and pick us up, and they already contacted the UNHCR.
Right.
We have some people, and then when we were transported to refugees camp, there were already like 300 people there. So we were not alone. We were not the first.
Right. Okay. So that was 1978.
That was 1978, 1977 actually, and then we were in the refugee camp, and then we started our lives living there, just waiting to be interviewed by UN people. About 3 weeks after we arrived, after all the paperwork with the Malaysian police and everything, we were documented, registered, and then the UNHCR sent them come in. They come every month, I think. About three and a half weeks after that, they arrive, and they went through the interviewing process. And funny enough, the UN leader, the leader of that team who went to the refugee camp to interview assassin people was a friend of my father. He's an American. He studied with my father at the University of Southern California when my father was sent over there to study. So they met each other, and then he asked him to look out for my mother. He explained the situation, that we lost her and my younger sister, and we don't know where they are. They could be back in Vietnam, got caught, put in jail by the security, the police, or they could be dead, and they could drift to sea somewhere because they were on a smaller boat. What happened after
Right.
that was they got interrupted by the security, so they disbanded.
Right.
Back, and went back to their normal life, and then about 1 month later they gather back again, and then they use that small boat, which is about how would I say 11 meters boat.
Right.
10, 11 meters, one of the little boat that you run around in the river, and then they escaped with that boat, and they landed up in Thailand.
Right.
So basically, they arrived in Thailand, in Songkhla, in Thailand, another refugee camp. Anyway, So back here with my father, because he used to work in government in South government, and he used to work with some of his colleagues were Americans, and he was a government official, so he was prioritized as to be express, as an express candidate to get American visa entry to America. So
Right.
we were 3 months after we landed. We were given visa to go to America as a refugee. My father and 5 of his children. We were given an address in San Diego. We were given a key and documentation. So we were transported to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, waiting to catch their flight
Right.
to San Diego to arrive as a free refugee there. And he was even given a job in the government department as well, being an ex official for South Vietnam at the time. So when we were in when we were in Kuala Lumpur, he received a telegram from his friend, the UN the UN person, the UN manager in charge of all the refugee in Southeast Asia at the time,
Right.
in all of the US Southeast Asian refugee program. I sent it to him and said, I found your wife and your daughter. They're in Songkhla, Thailand, but in 2 days they will depart from Songkhla, Thailand to Australia as a refugee. And because they were single mother with 1 child, vulnerable, so they were prioritized. They were given priority to leave. After 1 month in Songkhla, they were given entry into Australia. So you have 2 choices. You can continue with your journey, go to America as a refugee in America, and then your wife would need to apply. We will help you apply to transfer her to migrate from Australia as a migrant from Australia
Right.
to America. But then it will take 12 months, roughly about 12 months for her to do that, because then she's not a refugee anymore, because she already got accepted to the refugee in Australia, so she would be a
Right.
migrant to America. But then, or the alternative is we cancel your American visa. I change your file to the Australian section, and then of course he will help process everything, to speed the thing up. But then you would be an Australian refugee, but then you need to wait there for two weeks while I process your documents. That's very fast, Then you think nowadays accepted to be a refugee in 2 weeks. So my father decided, because my younger sister was 2, and then the next one was like 3, 4 or 5, and then we were only 2. I said, I can't do this all by myself. So I said, okay,
Yes.
I go to Australia. And
Yes.
that's our
That's, I mean,
story. So when enough to Australia, we arrived first in Sydney, and then they realized that they mixed it up, because they got mixed up, because my mother was in Melbourne and we arrived in Sydney, so we had to wait there for a week for them to reprocess so that they transfer us to Melbourne.
that's incredible. I mean, it's very, it's not only incredible, it's a miracle.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. I just, try to imagine when you left Vietnam with a small boat, the wind obviously, go to the shore, right? Went to the shore, it's not
Yeah.
the opposite. You would end up somewhere else.
Yeah. Basically, if you look at the map, right? So you say,
Yeah.
all right. So you have a little compass, not the navigational equipment. So it's not especially back in those days. We're talking about late 70s. Fishermen,
Yes.
they know that use the weather to judge direction, and they only go out to fish and they come back. We're trying to cross the sea to another country, and then using fishermen. Well, of course, you can't have the navigational equipment, adequate navigational equipment to do the long trip. So they just use that they bought from black market, the military compass that you open and have a look when you're in the jungle. And
Yes.
so they look at the map, they say, hey, if we go that way, then we hit some land, because you look at the map from
Right.
Vietnam and then Thailand and then Malaysia and then Indonesia underneath. So if we go out there, we hit land. If we go
Yes.
straight out, right? So obviously, so when we go, and then the wind and the waves blow us first to Thailand, and then we turn around. Okay, we run, and then we blow first. If Malaysia had rejected us, maybe we would end up in Indonesia, and I could speak Indonesian by now.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think, I just, thinking about the wind direction, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also between Ireland, I don't think that it's not, it wasn't open sea, you know what I mean?
It was, for us, it was open sea, because we of course, when you look at the map, they're not. But when you out at sea, you don't see anything. You only see water lines in
Yes.
the sky. And if you don't see any, one time we run past, we could see far away a container or one of the cargo big seafaring ship, the one that carry supplies or container or something like that. But then we try to wave, and then obviously we were not the first one, so maybe they've seen it before. They didn't want to be inundated with refugee. They were on a mission. They were there to deliver something, so they they couldn't go. So they just passed us. Basically, if we were not, our boat wasn't sinking, then they didn't think that they need to help us. We could go ahead. I think if I recall correctly, one time one of the boat walked past us and asked us, we need any supply. The boat's okay. So they handed us some supply, and they went on. But more or less, we were at sea by ourselves with only water and sky.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the capacity of the boat really is 60 people. It's only what how many
Yeah,
people
the capacity at the time, obviously, this is a fishing boat. We capacity only of we're talking about, if you talk about Australian terminology, capacity only for the fishermen, only 6 people, because with
6.
the quarter was lying down asleep. But we try to stack onto it 70 people. But we planned for 70 people. Basically, we
Right.
got the whole containment of where you put the fish in to store, where the fishermen go. All the ice is in there, and they put the fish there so that they fish, and then they throw the fish, and they put them in there, and they come back. Yeah. So basically, once we at sea, we can sit on the deck.
Yeah.
We could sit on the deck. If somebody, we could sit a little bit under the canopy cover, but basically, we don't have a fixed place to contain 31 people.
Right. Okay. So you were in Saigon, yeah, in the capital city.
That's right. We Saigon, but the boat departed from one of the coastal towns, very much like Jakarta, Semarang. Basically, we have to go from Jakarta to Semarang, so we had to go from Saigon to this town called like a Ratja, which is a coastal town, as famous for all the seafood and fishing and all the all the ocean deriving products. Yeah.
Right. So for 3 years, Saigon fell 30th of April 1975.
Yeah.
So you left Vietnam 78. I mean, 3 years.
October 77. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were
2.5
hiding 3 years in Vietnam, in South Vietnam.
2.5 years. No, we just conducted normal life under communism. My father, when my father, when the communists came in, he had to go to re-education camp.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So because he was a high government official,
Yes.
and then I was an ex-soldier before that. He was an officer before he transferred. He switched to government, so he had to serve in the education camp as a government official and as an ex-soldier as well. Yeah.
Yes. And the story, I mean, your dad met his friend when he was in the US here. That's accidental, it's very
exactly
incredible story.
That's incredible. Yeah, I think that's helped a lot too, because of that we got help from him more. I don't know maybe whether he would do that to a normal person, because knowing my dad at the time, So he actually, I'm sure that he went above and beyond his duty to help us, especially with when when he found my mother, and then he switched the processing from, he speed up the process for my father to come to America, already
Right.
organized a house, a job for my father even before he arrived
Right.
in government, and then the fact that he switched that from to Australia, because he was the head of the UN High Commission for Refugee in Southeast Asia. So basically, he coordinated all of this. Yeah.
Yes. And also, I mean, your family is not civilian, the military work with the government. I'm sure the priority for the UN, to put you
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, I think that's helped me. It was a policy at the time.
Yes.
When they come to this, they stated very openly, very clearly, the priority is for government official, and
Yeah.
this depends on the ranking, and then soldier, and then ex armed forces first.
Right.
They are the two ones that go first before any other people. So if you government official or armed forces, then you get to go first and prioritize according to obviously your roles within the important you were to need to get away from. Obviously, all standard refugee assessment criteria. Yeah, at the time.
But interesting when you said, I mean, it could have been landed in Indonesia, could have been in a spoken Bahasa, but now you are married to an Indonesian lady now who
Yeah,
speak
yeah.
Bahasa. That's
No,
very
not
interesting,
quite yet. I understand a lot now, but
Yes.
yeah, I hopefully can speak fluently one day, so we can have this conversation in Bahasa Indonesia.
That's right. That's right. So how do you see now? I mean, lives is goes on. We know that two Vietnams, before, but now one Vietnam. How you reconcile that yourself? I mean,
Yeah, I probably for me personally, it's easier than other in terms of, because my parents, we all our family here, my sibling and my parents are all here. I arrived when I was 13, 14, and then for my sibling, they were much easier because they were younger. After we left, the siblings of my mother and my father also make their way across. Not all of them, but like at least half of the majority of them arrived to Australia. They follow us, funny enough,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
because we were the first. So a lot of them are now settled in Australia. Some went to America or Canada. But the majority are in Australia. So from that point, for me, life as usual, because it's Australia now become our home.
yes.
Because we sort of like technically, I spent more time in Australia. I spent 13 years in Vietnam, 13, 14 years, and more than 40 years in Australia.
I think, I
So
mean,
obviously,
the study also shows that, I mean, when you come, move to another country before, before puberty, it's a lot
yeah,
easier. You
a
really
lot easier.
end up and become a local. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully not quite local, but yes,
Yes, yes,
definitely much easier. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. Okay, I mean, would you like to? We have to continue this talk to second episode because it's very interesting, it's very incredible, it's a miracle. Would you like to recite something in a poetry in Vietnamese, or in Bahasa, in any
I
language you like?
I haven't actually prepared for that one.
Right,
Maybe if you could help me, and then maybe next time, I promise I will prepare a
right.
poetry. Hopefully, I will do something that we can share next week. I mean, next time, the part two, wherever that you decided.
Yes.
Is that
All right.
okay?
Terima kasih, Van. Ya, kita akan sambung lagi. We continue with the second episode.
Inshallah.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Good morning, Indonesia with Poetry. Like to say thank you very much and sampai nanti.
It's an honor. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.